Welcome, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, la'asok b'divrei Torah. So
Amen.
I need to open up I thought I had it open from yesterday, but let me go ahead and see what I can do to open these pieces here. There we go. All right.
Oh, no.
Okay, let's take care of that. And I'm going to share and make sure I have those illustrations along with what we're reading in the text. All right. So we are looking at the boards, right? The crushing, the boards. And let me find the going to show you again. Hopefully it's going to work. Yes, there it is. So, of course, the boards are along the side here. They were like the ribs, right? If we're looking at it as if it were this represented human being. Okay, so here the boards separated out, and I'm going to go back now to the text. Right. Vahayu shmona krashim va'adnehem kesef shisha asar adanim. So we're talking here about the corner, the boards that were on the end, the western side of the tabernacle. So it's saying there were 8 boards and their sockets, kesef of silver, shisha asar adanim. So you already know that each board had 2 sockets, so 16 sockets. Shnei adanim tachat keresh ha'achad, u'shnei adanim tachat ha'keresh ha'achad. So two sockets underneath one board and 2 sockets underneath another board. And we'll take a look and see what we have here. So we don't have anything. I believe we read this yesterday in our previous lesson. So we're going to keep going. Va'asita brichim atzei shitim, and you shall make bars of acacia wood, chamisha lekashe tzela hamishkan ha'echad, 5 for the boards on one side of the tabernacle. Go on with the next verse. V'chamisha brichim lekashe tzela hamishkan ha'shenit, and 5 boards for the, 5 bars for the boards on the side on the second side of the tabernacle. V'chamisha brichim lakashe tzela hamishkan liyarchataim yama, and 5 bars for the boards on the side of the tabernacle that was on the western side. In other words, Yama, of course, is sea, but from where they are, the Mediterranean Sea is what we're talking about, and that would be on the western side. So let's see if we have anything here. So, right. So brichim. I'm going to show you what we are talking about before I even look at the Rashi. So let me show you. I'm going to have to go down a little bit. Let's see if we have them here. No, these are not what we're talking about here. Let's make sure. So again, now we're talking about it. So these are the bars that he's talking about. And of course, eventually we're going to talk about these particular sockets to hold them. And the fact is that, so this was 30 cubits. And so one set went in 15 cubits, another went in 15 cubits, and then on the bottom there were 15 and another 15 on the side. And then let's see if I can get you a picture of something else. So there was another one that went all the way through all of the 30 cubits, right, of that we're talking about here. And so that's how they were 5 bars. That's why he talks about 5 bars. And Rashi's going to explain that. So again, how this was set up. Give me a moment and I'll get us back into the text. So he says ketargumor. So these words brichim, as the Targum, as the Aramaic translation translates it as avrim. The singular avrin is plural, and avra is the singular. And Jastrow translates the word avra as a bar or a bolt. And Rashi gives us the French, right? So whatever, I do not recognize this word. And kverigel, Okay. So again, something regal sounds like it's something to do that's around, but I think again, this could be a Yiddish word that means a bar or a bolt. Chamisha lekashe tzela hamishkan, right? 5 for the side of the boards on the side of the tabernacle. Elu hey, right? These 5, Gimel Hain, right? We're actually talking about 3 sets, right? So I'll go back to the picture just to remind you. So here the 3 is what he's talking about. So 1, right? 2 through the middle, right? This middle one, and then another 3. So that's the 3 he's talking about. But the ones on the top and the bottom were divided into 2 parts, 2 pieces. Okay. Ella, he says, however, habriach ha'elyon v'hatachton, but the bar on the top and the bar on the bottom, asui mishtei chatichot, were made out of 2 pieces. Ze mafriach ad chatzi hakotel, one of them extends to half the wall, ze mavriach ad chatzi hakotel, right? And the other one goes again to half the length of that wall, that side. Ze nichnas betabaat mitzad ze, right? So this would be put into that, and he calls it tabaat, right? A ring. And again, I want to show you, just to remind you, this is what he's talking about. This is the ring that he's talking about, right? So there were rings here and here. Let's see what else. Let's go back here. So here you can see the rings separately. And right here, again, a better picture of these rings and then how they were put in, right? So that they were they were stuck in this place here. You see, 1/3 and 1/3. That would accommodate those rings that would then accommodate the bars. Okay, let's see. Yeah, וזה נכנס בטבעת מצד זה. עד שמגיעים זה לזה, until the one bar reaches the other bar, נמצא בעליון ותחתון. So consequently, you have in the upper and the lower, שניים שהן ארבע, 2 sets, which actually comprise of 4 bars. Aval ha'emtza'i, but the middle one, or kol keneged kol hakotel, the length of that particular bar it corresponded to the entire length of the side. Umavriach mikatzeh hakotel va'ad katzehu, and it extends from one edge of the wall to the other edge. Shneemar, as it states regarding that middle one, the hivriach hatichon, it says the middle bar, etc. Mavriach min hakatzeh el hakatzeh, it goes from it extends from one edge to the other. Sha'elyonim v'hatachtonim, because the upper ones and the lower ones, hayu lahem tabaot, they had rings. We showed you what those were. Bakrashim on the boards, lihachnis otam to letochan, to put into them shtei tabaot lechol kerish. So we had 2 rings, one above and one below for every board. I believe we can take a look. Let's see if I'm right about that. Yep. So 1 ring you can see on each board. Just going back again. Right. They'd be accommodated in this particular place here. Okay. Okay, let's see here. L'chol keresh mishulashim betoch eser amot. Okay, so in other words, each board, from a measurement point of view, were divided into 3 parts amongst the 10 cubits. Shel gova hakeresh, that was the height of the board. Chelik echad. So the boards, I think we talked about how high the boards were. So it appears here that they were 10 cubits high, which would mean that they were 15 feet high. Okay, that would make sense, right? So chelik echad min hatabat ha'elyona, right? One part of the ring above, ulamala, right? Elyona, ulamala. V'chelek echad min hatachtona, and one part also on the lower part, ulamata, and below. So I think what he's saying here, just going back to the illustration, let's go here, right? So you can see that what I think he's saying is that one ring was in the upper third, right? And one ring was on the lower third. I think that's what he's trying to say here. Okay. All right, let's see. The kol chelak hu revia orech hakerish, and so he's saying that if you divide it up, he says that each part is 1/4 of the length of the board. Ushnei chalakim bein tabat letabat, and he's saying that there would be two parts between one ring and the other ring. Let's again take a look at the illustration. Right. So I guess he's saying, right, so this would be 1/4, and then that would be another quarter, and this would be another quarter, and this would be another quarter. So what Rashi's trying to describe is how this was divided. I said a third only because I was going this way, right? But actually, in terms of the actual measurements, Rashi is from the material he has and the sources he has was saying, that they measured off 1/4, and that's where they put the ring, and then they allowed for 2/4 here, and then another quarter here to measure the position of the ring. This is why it's good for us to be doing this together, right? Okay. Kadeshi you kol hatabaot mekuvanim. And this was so that all these rings would be aligned, is what he's saying. Zo keneged zo, one right opposite the other, one corresponding to the other. Aval levriach hatichon, but regarding the middle bar, ein tabaot, there were no rings. Ela hakrashim nikuvim, but the boards would be hollowed out, but ovian in their width. V'hu nichnas bahem derech hanikavim, and this bar would go into this area by way of this whole shehem mekuvanim ze mul ze, because one again would be set up and aligned one opposite the other. V'zehu shenemar, and this is what's referred to when it says betoch hakrashim, right? Within the boards. In other words, that this middle one, excuse me, 1 second, that this middle one was within the boards. And again, this is what we're talking about here. This is what Rashi is referring to right here. Okay, let's go here. I think there was the one, right. So here, the middle one would go through there, and here we have another picture of the setup like that. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. וזהו שנאמר בתוך הקרשים. Habrichim ha'elyonim v'hatachtonim, but with regard to the bars that were on the upper side and the lower side, shebetzafon u'shebadarom, and that were also on the north side and on the south side, orech kol achat, so since the entire length of the north and south wall was 30 cubits, so if you divide that in two, of course, that means each bar, tet vav amah, would be 15 cubits. V'atichon orka lamed amah. But the middle one, of course, since it went from one edge to the other, would be 30 cubits. V'zeh hu min hakatzeh el hakatzeh. In other words, this is exactly from one edge to the other edge, min hamizrach v'ad ha'ma'arav, from the east to west. V'chamesh brichim b'ma'arav, sheb'ma'arav, and with regard to the 5 bars that were on the west side, that western edge of the tabernacle, orech ha'elyonim v'atachtonim vav amot, they were, if you would add up the total number of boards. The boards, remember, were 1.5 cubits wide, and there were 8 boards on the edge, right? 6 regular ones, and then the 2 corner pieces. So that would be 12 cubits. So the top ones and the lower ones were 6 cubits. Vatichon orko yud bet, right? And the middle one, of course, would be 12 cubits in length. Keneged rochav chet kroshim, that would correspond to the width of 8 boards. Kach hi meforeshet b'malechet hamishkan. And so it is explained and stated explicitly in a section which talks about the construction of the Mishkan, the work of the tabernacle. And that's in the Talmud. You find that on page 98, page 98. So let's see. Okay, I think maybe we have one more, right? Here we go. V'habriach hatichon. Let's say I think we did this. We need to do this. V'habriach hatichon, and the middle bar. Betoch hakrashim. You see how he says it's actually in the because it's hollowed out from the boards. Mavriach min katzeh el hakatzeh would extend from one edge to the other. Let's make sure I'm catching everything here. Okay. Ve'et hakrashim titzapeh zahav, and you should overlay the boards with gold. Ve'et tabotehem, and their rings ta'aseh zahav. You should make them out of gold. Batim levrichim. In other words, they should enclose the bars. Ve'tzipita et habrichim zahav, and you should overlay the bars with gold. And we do have a picture in some kind here. So going down here, let's go a little bit. There we are. So that's what it looked like. You can see here the rings and how they were made out of gold and how all this was overlaid with gold because these were made out of acacia wood. And remember, these are the sockets and the silver sockets. And again, I'm thinking that the reason why there wasn't one long bar on both on the upper edges and the lower is to accommodate some sort of some sort of movement, vertical movement that follows the terrain of the tabernacle. So I think that there was some intentional engineering going on there. Here we go, just another view of this. Right, and this is with the curtains here. Talking about this. So the Holy of Holies would be here, and this would be the area where the furniture would go. Here we have some of the furniture here, bird's eye view. Just some different views of this. Okay. Let me go back here. Okay, let's take a look. Here. Batim lavrichim, right? To enclose, literally, of course, you know that bayit means a house, a home for the bars. Hatabaot she ta'aseh bahen, right? You batim, the rings that you should have, you batim lechachnis bahen abrichim. You have to make them in such a way that you could put the bars into them. You could insert the bars into them. V'tzipita et habrichim zahav, you shall overlay the bars with gold. Lo shehaya hazahav medubak al habrichim. So it's interesting. He's saying that the gold wasn't actually stuck on the bars. She'ein aleihem shum tzipui, because in fact there was no gold on them. They weren't decorated with gold. Ela bakerish haya kovea kamin shnei pipiot. So he says, but on the board, he would set up like two. Literally, pipiot means mouths, shel zahav, of gold, kemin shnei sidkei kaneh, like two hollow. I think what this is saying is that the two hollows of a reed, chalul, of a hollow reed. The kovin etzel hatabaot lachan ulachan, and they would place them near on the rings on one side and the other, or kan melame et rochav hakedesh, and I'll show you the picture. It shows you exactly what we're talking about here, what Rashi's describing, right? Their length would fill up the width of the board, min hatabat lakan, from the ring on one side, umimena, right, lakan, and again from one other side to the other side, v'habriach nichnas letocho, and the bar would go into it, umimenu, letocho, umimenu letabat, right, and from it into the ring. Umina tabat lapeh, hasheni, and from the ring to the other mouth, so to speak, or lip, we could say perhaps. So lip would make more sense here. Nimtzeu habrichim mitzupim zahav. So that consequently the bars, you could say, were overlaid with gold. Keshahen chash tchuvim bakrashim, when they were placed onto the boards. V'habrichim halalu mibachutz hayu, and these particular bars were on the outside, boltot, and they would stick out from outside. V'hatabaot v'apipiot lo hayu nirot betoch hamashan, so that these rings and their lips weren't seen from within the Mishkan tabernacle. Ela kol hakotel chalak mibifnim, but the entire wall would be smooth on the inside, and we'll show you exactly what we're talking about here. Let me go back. Okay, so this is a good picture. So just to show you a little bit better the way in which, so this is what he's talking about. He's talking about the fact that this is made out of gold. That's the ring, and you can see it's actually a ring. And this is the lip that he's talking about here, that he's referring to. Okay, let's see if there are any other, yeah, another picture of it you can see, and how they would align one against the other, so that, again, you see how they would line up next to each other, and
Yeah.
then they place the bar through it, and that's in that sense. So that's what the Torah was meaning when it was talking about overlaying them with gold, that the bars should be overlaid with gold. Not that they were gold, there was gold foil on them and that you were actually attaching them to them, but they were overlaid in that sense. And that's why we're seeing this here. Let me see if there's any other pictures. No, but he's also talking about how they were on the outside, right? We did see that,
Mhm.
how they're on the outside, and how the inner walls are smooth. That's what Rashi is talking about here. Okay, so excuse me 1 second. Okay, so let me see if this is a good, okay. Okay, here we go. Sure, I want to make sure I have the right place. We talked about, right. Uh, let's see. Yeah, I think we had, yeah, no, this, we have to go further. Forgive me. Okay. So just want to make sure I've got, oh no, okay. So I'm just trying to find our place. Forgive me. Just, okay, yeah, that's where we started today. So we're actually in over here. Right. This is the verse we just did. So well, let's do one more. V'akaimota et hamishkan. You should set up the tabernacle. In other words, you have to erect those boards. Kemishpato, according to its rules. Asher hor eta baha, which you were shown on the mountain. And we'll stop in terms of the text here, the Torah text here. So, and we're at the Chamishi portion here. So let's just do this, and that's where we can start tomorrow. Okay, let's see what we have here. I believe we have a Rashi here, right? V'hakemota et hamishkan. You should erect the tabernacle la'achar she'igmor hakimehu. In other words, he's saying after you've after you've worked on it, fabricated it, after it's finished, you should set it up. Or Eta Bahar, which you were shown on the mountain, Kodem Lachain, before this, Sha'ani Atid Lelamedcha, because in the future I will teach you Laharotcha, and to show you Seder Hakamato, it's the order in which it's to be erected. And that's, again, where we will stop for today as far as the Rashis are concerned. So, in our next session, we'll go to verse 31. Okay. So I'm going to stop the share. And if anyone have any questions or any thoughts about what you're seeing.
Hmm. Uh, did the tent was made of goat's hair?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
they have a tent in there. They put a tent
Yes,
in.
they
And it
had
goes,
actually three layers. We'll see the pictures of those layers. Okay.
oh,
So the middle layer was in fact made out of goat hair. Yes, good memory, Arlen.
yeah.
Yes.
I just was wondering.
Yeah. And of course, there's symbolism in every bit of this. Every element of it had symbolism involved.
Hmm.
It was done in a very in a very methodical and thoughtful way as
Well,
to
what's the
the
altar made of? Were they
the
sand?
altar. Well, if you're talking about the altar outside where they
Yeah.
offered up that was actually made out of copper or bronze, if you know however you want to translate the word nechoshet, they
Oh,
say. Yeah, it was not made out of gold, right?
okay.
Yeah. All right, so I think we'll end our session right now.